Imagine a man starting his journey with just 10 rupees in his pocket. No fancy education, no good father in business, just sheer belief in himself and the fire to rise above poverty. This isn't fiction. This is the story of Dhirubhai Ambani, the man who went from working at a petrol pump in Yemen to building Reliance, India's largest business empire. So how did this Gujarati boy from a small town disrupt industries, challenge monopolies, and become the father of Indian capitalism? Let's rewind the clock and dive into the real-life rags to riches story of Dhirubhai Ambani. The year was 1932. The place, Chorwad, a dusty little village in Junagadh district, Gujarat. Born into a modest family, Dhirjalal Hirachand Ambani, or Dhirubhai, as the world would come to know him, was the third son of a schoolteacher. Money was always tight. His father's monthly income could barely cover the household expenses. But even as a child, Dhirubhai was different. While other kids played games, he sold bhajiyas at village fairs and earned small coins on the side. He wasn't just trying to earn pocket money, he was learning how the world of trade worked. He wasn't top of his class. In fact, he didn't go beyond matriculation. But what he lacked in academics, he made up for in observation, street smartness, and raw business instinct. At just 17, Dhirubhai left for Aden, Yemen, where his brother had arranged a job for him at a Bess & Co., a firm that ran a petrol pump and imported goods for the British military. His salary? Just 300 rupees a month. But the experience he gained there? Priceless. In Aden, Dhirubhai witnessed the global oil trade, international shipping, and import-export business up close. He watched traders work the markets. He made friends with British officers and Arab merchants alike. And he picked up a crucial skill: foreign exchange trading. Every Friday, stock prices of companies like Shell and Burma Oil were put up on a public board. Most Indians just walked by, but not Dhirubhai. He stood there for hours, memorizing the numbers, analyzing the patterns. That's when he started dreaming, not just of doing business, but of building an empire. In 1958, he returned to India, not to settle into a job, but to start something of his own. With a mere 15,000 rupees, including loans from friends and family, Dhirubhai set up Reliance Commercial Corporation in a small 350 square feet office at Narsinatha Street, Masjid Bunda, Mumbai. What was the business? Importing polyester yarn and exporting spices. But polyester was his golden ticket. It was the yarn of the future, and Dhirubhai knew that India's rising middle class would soon drive demand for synthetic fabrics. There was just one problem. The import business in India was tightly controlled by license Raj, bureaucrats, and old money industrialists. But Dhirubhai had something none of them did: the ability to build relationships at every level. Whether it was a customs officer, a dock worker, or a trader, Dhirubhai spoke their language. And slowly, Reliance began to grow. By the early 1970s, Dhirubhai realized that importing was limited by regulations. So, he pivoted from trader to manufacturer. In 1977, he set up his first textile mill in Naroda, Gujarat. That same year, Reliance went public, launching India's first ever IPO for a private company. People thought he was crazy. How can a middle-class trader raise cross from the public? But Dhirubhai's genius lay in storytelling. He promised shareholders not just dividends, but the opportunity to grow with the company. He personally wrote letters to investors explaining how Reliance would create wealth, not just for him, but for everyone who believed in his dream. Thousands of small-time investors responded. Housewives, clerks, teachers, all became part owners of Reliance. This wasn't just fundraising. It was financial inclusion decades before the term became trendy. The 1980s were a wild ride. Reliance was booming, polyester sales were soaring, and Dhirubhai was expanding rapidly into petrochemicals, plastics, and refining. But the journey wasn't without storms. He clashed with Bombay Dyeing's Nuslivadia, fought with government regulators, and was often accused of policy manipulation. The press labeled him a manipulator. Rivals accused him of having too much political backing. One infamous incident was the Reliance beer cartel crisis in 1988, where a group of stock market brokers tried to hammer down Reliance shares. Dhirubhai struck back. With the support of retail investors and a legendary counteroffensive by stockbroker Rakesh Jhunjhunwala and his team, the cartel was broken. Reliance stock rebounded, and Dhirubhai's image as a fighter for the small investor grew stronger. Dhirubhai wasn't content with being a textile baron. He wanted control over every part of the supply chain. He built India's largest petrochemical plants. Then he built his own pipeline network. He didn't just buy raw materials, he manufactured them. From yarn to fabric, plastics to petroleum, Reliance became a vertically integrated beast. In 1991, liberalization hit India. While others were scrambling to adapt, Dhirubhai was already playing a bigger game. By the late 1990s, Reliance had become India's most valuable company. Mukesh and Anil were inducted into the business. Refineries, telecom, petrochemicals, Reliance was no longer a company. It was an institution. In 1999, Reliance Petroleum's Jamnagar refinery, the world's largest grassroots refinery at the time, was commissioned. A symbol of vision, ambition, and execution. But Dhirubhai's greatest legacy wasn't just infrastructure or wealth. It was belief. He made ordinary Indians believe they could dream big. He made small investors feel powerful. He gave Indian entrepreneurship a new identity, not rooted in pedigree, but in passion. Dhirubhai suffered a stroke in 1986 and again in 2002, which led to his passing on 6th July 2002. The government honored him with a Padma Vibhushan and India Mond. But his story didn't end there. In 2005, Reliance split between Mukesh and Anil Ambani. Mukesh took the refining, petrochemicals, and later built Reliance Jio, India's biggest telecom revolution. Anil took telecom, power, and infra, though his empire later crumbled. But through it all, the core of Dhirubhai's vision lived on. He didn't come from wealth. He didn't speak polished English. He never went to Harvard. But he had vision, courage, and the willingness to fight, not just markets, but mindsets. Today, in a world of startup founders and unicorn dreams, his story remains India's greatest entrepreneurial inspiration. So the next time you feel small, under-resourced, or alone in your hustle, remember the boy from Chorwad, who started with 10 rupees and built an empire worth billions. If stories like these inspire you, subscribe to the channel for more untold business journeys.